Hello and welcome to Focus Series, a podcast channel by AUA Media Lab. This podcast is part of our broader mission to highlight the efforts of changemakers shaping the sustainable development, technology, and innovation. I'm Lusine Tadevosyan. I'm adjunct lecturer at American University of Armenia, and I'm teaching Sustainable Food Systems course. In addition to my academic role, I have more than 10 years of experience in agricultural research and development, digital transformation, food systems innovations, startup ecosystems, and project management roles in different donor organizations, private and private and public companies. I'm happy to be your host because of this is directly relates to my experience. This means that supporting digital and sustainable agriculture and food systems. I'm happy to introduce you, Daniela Di Gianantonio, who is head of digital agriculture at the FAO Regional Office for Europe and Central Asia. Daniela brings a unique interdisciplinary perspective to her role, drawing from years of experience in private tech sector, startup ecosystem, and international development and humanitarian work. At FAO, she is leading strategic efforts to digitalize agri-food system and rural areas across the region. Daniela, welcome to the Focus Series. It is really my pleasure having you here.
Pleasure is all mine, and always a pleasure to be back in Armenia, to be here for the Sevan Agritech Summit, and thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you. Daniela, let's start from your story. Could you please explain us or tell about yourself, your journey, how you started that and how you became, find yourself in digital agriculture sector?
Of course. So, interestingly, I don't have an educational background in agriculture, or in digital, but in economics. But I started my career working in the technology sector, in the software sector in Denmark. And I got very passionate about the use of technology for sustainable development. I was working on technologies that enable people with disabilities access to the digital world. And that led me to a very lucky application, and I started working now 8 years ago with the FAO HQ in Rome in their very first digital innovation unit. I then decided that I wanted to do more work in the field, but still in digitalization. And so I joined the World Food Program, and I worked based in Cairo, covering the whole region for the Middle East and North Africa. And since 2022, I rejoined FAO, but this time the regional office for Europe and Central Asia, where I have the honor to lead the digital agriculture program in 18 countries across the region.
Thank you. You are the head of that department, FAO's Digital Agriculture Department. For those who are new, could you please tell what is FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, and how that organization is helping our countries to shape their agriculture sector?
Of course. So FAO is the lead specialized agency, UN agency, that leads the efforts to defeat hunger. And we do that by promoting the so-called 4 betters. So we work so that our agri-food system are able to better produce our food, better production, that will lead to more nutrition food, better nutrition for all of us in a better environment so that everyone can lead better lives. And of course, technologies have a big role to play in this transformation, in this agri-food system transformation. And so the role of our unit, we are 25 people across the region working to mainstream digitalization across agri-food systems.
We're speaking about the digitalization, food systems transformation. And for me, for example, digital agriculture, it is like sensors in the field, digital twin technologies, the precision agriculture, etc., etc. how you can define that digital agriculture in 2025?
Right. In 2025, we are at a pivotal moment for digital agriculture and the digitalization of our agri-food systems. And this is mostly led by AI, artificial intelligence. But let's make a bit of a step back to understand what is digital agriculture and how can we harness digital technologies for agri-food system transformation. So agriculture in the last 150 years has been profoundly transformed by technologies. So let's think of the, of course, industrial revolution shift, the shift in the 60s with genomics and chemistry that leads to the internet area technology. That's when we start talking about e-agriculture or agriculture 4.0. So it's when we start using GPS, satellite, Internet of Things, but also simpler technologies like telecommunication in agriculture. And this up until just a few years ago, when the rise in artificial intelligence is again creating another shift. And we're talking about agriculture 5.0 now, where machinery now, we don't talk about machinery anymore, but about autonomously led robotics, right? Able to think, able to act, able to do things independently, but it's much more than this, right? It's about technologies that are impacting our agri-food systems as a whole, and not just at production level, not just the way we produce our food, but also the way we process our food, or the way we transport our food, we consume our food, and the way we even dispose our food.
Yes, we saw lots of agricultural revolutions, for example, starting from 1 to agriculture 4.0. Now you are speaking about agriculture 5.0. Now, could you please tell us more about artificial intelligence and emerging technologies, where they can take us in the future?
As I said, I think we are really at a tipping point, at a pivotal moment, and especially with the rise not just of artificial intelligence, but of large language model, we can make knowledge, information, and advisory services available directly in farmers' pockets, directly on their phones. And how? Through AI agents, AI advisory bots that are able to ingest large sources of data and knowledge, and to deliver tailored advisory services and knowledge to farmers. But of course, these has wide range of applications. Through artificial intelligence, we are better able to analyze large sets of data, big data, make better prediction. So deliver better early warnings against climate events, weather events, or plant pests and diseases to farmers. Or we can have autonomous robots that will be able to seed or to harvest and to replace some of the labor-consuming tasks that farmers traditionally have to do.
As we see, the digital solutions, they are advancing, and there's a risk that all of farmers, they cannot afford or adopt all this transformation. How real is the risk of that digital divide in agriculture? Can you explain more?
Absolutely, right? From all what I said so far, you may think, oh, technology has already solved all the problems of our agri-food systems, right? But the reality is actually that we are creating new problems, and technology adoption is uneven. We see larger farmers able to adopt, able to access, able to afford modern technologies, and a stark divide with the smaller farmers that lack access, lack funds, lack knowledge, lack the skills, lack even the attitude to access positively digital technologies. And that's the risk of the digital divide. And if we think about who is that the backbone of our agri-food systems? They are the smaller farmers, because worldwide they produce 1/3 of the global food supply. And in countries like Armenia, they are more than the 90% of all farmers, so more than even 95, if I remember the numbers correctly, and they produce more than 90% of the total agriculture GDP. So you understand they are the cornerstone of food security in Armenia and worldwide. So we absolutely need to work to remove the barriers that are hindering smallholder farmers' access to digital technologies, whether they are infrastructure, so the rural connectivity or the ability to access digital devices, whether they are affordability challenges, so the ability to fund, to get access to credit, right? So that they can purchase such solutions, or whether they are more related to awareness, to lack of digital skills, or even attitude, cultural norms, and social behaviors that are creating this divide at many levels, right? It's not just an urban-rural digital divide, but it's also a gender digital divide, often led by cultural and social norms, and a generational divide, whereby farmers tend to be older and young people is turning away from agriculture.
Yes, and when we are speaking about the digital transformation, FAO's work, could you please tell more about FAO's work in Central Asia and Europe, and especially in Armenia? What are you doing? Because I know that FAO is doing huge work in Armenia. Describe that.
Yes, I'm actually getting very excited about the work that we are doing in Armenia. But let's get a step back. So we talked about these barriers, where I think if we can summarize our priorities for the digital agriculture program in Europe and Central Asia, is exactly acting to remove those barriers so that everyone, even the smaller farmer working in the most remote rural areas, can have access to digital technologies and can make a positive use of them. So we worked at several levels. Of course, we work at policy level, so with policymakers, so that they create strategies, roadmaps, policies that are conducive to an inclusive digital agriculture transformation. That's something we did in Armenia already a few years ago. Actually, the first time I was here was in 2019, starting the works for the country's first digital agriculture strategy. Secondly, what else we do? We support our government counterparts, typically Ministry of Agriculture, in Armenia, the Ministry of Economy, in establishing core and foundational e-government systems and collecting data for agriculture. Why? Because these are core systems, registries, and they provide foundational data so that not just the government, but all players can reuse them to deliver better services to farmers. So in Armenia, already some years ago, we started working on the country's very first farm registry. That will be soon piloted for the grape value chain in the form of a vineyard registry system, with the vision to upscale nationwide, and with the vision to interconnect and interlink to several digital services that farmers can use, because this is also essential, right? As we talked about the barriers, farmers have affordability barriers or accessibility barriers, so there is a big role for the public sector to make digital services available to farmers. And so we can talk about advisory services as what I believe will be the next step for Armenia, but also administrative services, right? Making things easier for the farmers. Last but not least, we also work directly with farmers, with rural communities on the ground through our flagship initiative called the Digital Villages Initiative. And I'm actually here to launch the initiative in Armenia. We are just starting in 2 regions, in Lori and Tavush, to really accelerate adoption at farmers level and by lead farmers that can promote and transfer the experience to others. And now I said before last but not least, but this is really the last but not least, is creating the digital agriculture ecosystem, right? All actors working together. Academia, right? With the government, with farm advisors, with farmers, with the private sector. And that's why I'm here also to support the AgriTech 7 Summit these days, because it's the first big event that is really bringing together all actors and working with young people, with startups, with private sector, with governments, with academia to innovate with and for the farmers.
Yes. And we know that agriculture is like impacted by and contributes to the environmental challenges. This is like a soil degradation, water scarcity, and other issues. How do you think that digital agriculture will help us to solve that challenges, or at least deal with that challenges?
Absolutely. We have a daunting challenge ahead of us. We need to produce more food for a growing population, but with less resources, less water, less fertilizers, less pesticide, less energy. And we need to do that in a changing climate. So digital technologies have a huge role in achieving this. And we can here summarize or introduce the concept of precision agriculture. So we can use Internet of Things sensors to give us accurate and exact soil data so that we know the status of our soil and we are able to achieve precise irrigation. So to water or to give even pesticide only when is needed and where is needed. We can interlink this with satellite technologies or with a drone imagery that can analyze very much in detail the status of a plot and the crop health, and can tell exactly again where to water or where to spray fertilizers, or even can anticipate pests and diseases and weather patterns so that we can deliver early warnings to farmers. And big data analytics can help us process all this data. And now with artificial intelligence, we can make better prediction and we can make this knowledge available to farmers in the form of simple to use and actionable advisory services. And this is not to mention the livestock sector, right? So precision livestock, again, use of sensors, use of Internet of Things technologies to be able to monitor the health of the animals and to automate their feeding, so to achieve efficiencies also in livestock production. So yes, digital technologies can have a big role to play, and it's essential that everybody is put in a position to adopt them and to make meaningful use out of them.
If you look ahead 5 years, let's say, what kind of transformational shift you would like to see in a globe, let's say?
In the globe?
Yes.
Okay. So I think very transformative action will be meaningful, which means high quality and highly accessible, affordable, rural connectivity, internet connectivity everywhere, so that everybody can access digital technologies, as the precondition is that they have access to the internet, right? I would like to see more investments by governments in building their digital public infrastructure for agriculture, and more efforts by government in digitalizing services to farmers, making such services more available for them. I would like to see also more private investments into startup initiatives and private sector companies that are developing products and services specifically for farmers' needs. And I would like to see artificial intelligence and large language models playing a huge role in democratizing access to knowledge and advisory services to farmers.
As a concluding question, if we zoom back into Armenia, what kind of steps you say that we need to adopt in order to fully embrace and accelerate this transformation?
So I think from the government side is definitely about moving into a nationwide farm registry, interlinked with digital services and digitalizing the provision of extension services to farmers in collaboration with private sector and academia. And I believe another pivotal shift will be working with farmers on the ground to really accelerate adoption through digital skills programs, but also through programs like subsidy schemes and credit schemes that really support them in adopting digital technologies to improve their work.
Thank you very much for insightful and inspiring conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
You helped us to understand that digital transformation is not only the inclusion of the digitalization in agriculture, but it is also the connection of the people, data, systems in order to have the whole sustainable food systems and resilient food systems.
Thank you so much for having me once again. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.